Hi, I'm Holly. I am a Maritime Studies major here at Texas A&M at Galveston. Maritime Studies is a really cool degree. It's not super widely popular, but I think it's cool. We do a lot with anthropology, archaeology, and historical stuff in the sense of maritime world. Personally, I'm trying to go into museums, and so I do a lot of archaeology and anthropology. Today I'm going to be talking to you about life as a sailor, especially aboard tall ships. So this is the Theyssa. She's a tall ship that we have here in Galveston. She's right downtown. She has a really cool backstory. She was under a whole bunch of different names previously, and we actually got her from Greece, and she wasn't able to sail her here by herself. She had to be tugged by another ship all the way to Galveston, and then they repaired her, and now she goes on sails. You can schedule a visit with her and go on a fun little day trip on the Theyssa. So when sailors were aboard these tall ships, they kept a very strict schedule and routine. The ship is always moving, always running, trying to get from place to place, and so someone has to be up and taking care of the ship all hours of the night. And actually, more than one person has to be up to take care of the ship all hours of the night. So they had very strict, they called them watches. They were their shifts. So they had 4 hours on watch or on their shift, and then either 4 or 8 hours off, and it just switched off. So you were 4 hours on, 4 hours off. So to keep track of time for their watches, they would use hourglasses and a bell system. So every half hour, they would flip the hourglass over, and when it ran out at the half hour, someone had to ring the bell. Every half hour the bell was rang, and then you counted until your shift was over. So if you're on shift for 4 hours, you would have 8 bells by the time you were over. So 1 bell is the first 30 minutes, and then 2 bells is when you're at the first hour, and so on until the end of your shift. And then you're off for 4 hours or 8 hours if you're sleeping. So sailors ate some really interesting things. So sailors had to have food that could be kept on a ship for a long period of time. So these were things like rice, beans, crackers. They ate this stuff called hardtack, which is kind of like a really, really thick cracker. It's really, really salty. That's a picture of hardtack right there. They also had salted pork and beef. So they don't have refrigerators like we do now. So they stuck everything in salt to preserve it. So they really salty meat. And they actually sometimes had live animals, like chickens, where they would get eggs. And then when the hens stopped laying eggs, they would actually eat the chickens. So that's a little fun fact. So they had very tiny amounts of space on these ships. Like I said, you have you're up all hours of the night, so you are sharing your space with the person who has the opposite schedule of you, and it's like 18 inches. It's like this big. So imagine all of your entire room in this amount of space. It's not very much. So they didn't have a lot of personal belongings because they didn't have a lot of space, and they really just only spent time in their bunks when they were actually sleeping. They had a lot of hard work to do. As you can see, this guy, he's climbing up in the rigging, and that's stuff that they had to do all the time. Nowadays, like if you were on the Theyssa, you have to be harnessed in, and that's what to keep yourself safe. But these guys, they didn't have harnesses. They were just climbing up, doing the things that they had to do. So it's actually kind of a dangerous job, and it's really hard work. So if you see over here, they've got all these guys pushing against this thing. They're rounding a rope. It's a really thick rope, and they have to use it on a capstan. A capstan is a circular part in the middle of the ship, and it just wraps the rope around so that you can get more manpower to do it. Have you ever played tug of war? Well, it's kind of like that. So when you are trying to play tug of war, you have to get everybody in the same motion to pull at the same time to get the rope to move. And that's the same thing that these guys were doing. They had to all work together to get these big ropes to move the big masts or the sails, or to get off the dock. And so they would sing songs. And if you see right here, there's a little flute player. He is the guy who's making sure everybody stays on beat. So they would sing sea shanties and different songs, and on the different downbeats, they would pull the ropes so that everybody was pulling together. So we're going to talk about ships now a little bit. Ships are always ladies. So as I mentioned earlier, Alyssa, I called her her because ships are always women. And often they are the only ladies at sea. This is because it's kind of folklore that captains were married to their ship and sailors were married to the life. But ships are always ladies. Ships have special naming ceremonies on their first voyage, or if they have a renaming ceremony. Anytime it changes the name, you have to have this naming ceremony, and it also goes into the lore of like it being a dangerous job, and you want the name to be right so that you can make your voyage safely. So how do boats talk to each other? So if you're sailing along and you see another boat, and if you need help, or if there's any reason why you might need to talk to them, these days we use radios. They all have their own frequencies, and they can just hop on the radio and talk to each other. But previously, and still to today, we use flags to communicate, which is really cool. So here's some flags. This is a white flag. It means surrender. So ships would put this up if they were in a war and they were like, I'm tapping out. That's the American flag that symbolizes our country. This is a pirate flag. So just like that one would get raised and be like, oh, that's a pirate ship. Sometimes it wasn't raised because you don't want yourself to know that you're a pirate ship. This flag right here is a diver down flag, so that means that there's somebody under the water and other boats need to watch out and be careful. And this one is a submarine down flag, so that means that there's a submarine warning. And then all the flags in the tiny corner, that is the alphabet and the numbers. So this is A through Z, and 1 through 9, and then a couple other flags to communicate. And today you are going to create your own flag. So you're going to give your ship a name and then decorate your flag with colors, symbols, decorations, really anything that you want your ship to communicate with other ships. And remember, that's how your ship talks. So have fun creating your flag. Good luck, and I'll see you soon.